Okay, let's see if it's working. It's time to talk about monsters. Lots and lots of monsters. Always liked monsters, and this video is, well, honestly, it was a bug that I couldn't deal with, and I finally went out and I went and bought this monster manual. I gave it away and I bought it again, so I'm back. So let's have a quick look at this thing. So this is a very old book for those of you who are unaware. So if you've never been in one of my live streams before, essentially I will put the starting time down in the description when it actually sort of starts off. For those of you who are jumping into the live chat now, that's fine. So it will be in the description, the start time, later on if you're rewatching it. If you're here for the first time, by all means jump in and ask questions, have a chat with me, whatever. I'm going to just go through the book. It's one of my favourite monster manuals, the Monstrous manual. So we're going to get started pretty much about now. And I will chat along with you. It just depends on what you say, I guess. Okay, so whoever said beauty is in the eye of the beholder, I kind of like this D&D meme. Must never have crawled this dungeon. Now we're talking about beholders. Beholders are pretty nasty. And what is great about the Monstrous manual is it actually has a beholder on the front. You've got a beholder, you've got a lich, you've got a minotaur, a thycrene, and a red dragon. Probably an ancient red dragon at that. And I just recently decided to go and repurchase my Advanced Dungeons & Dragons D&D 2nd edition Monster Manual, or Monstrous Manual as it was called. And I just picked it up today. I went and gone to see my friend. In fact, what's funny about this story is I literally gave this book to my friend, and I've gone back and had to pay 20 New Zealand dollars to get it back off him. I gave it to him for free, and now I'm paying to get it back. Okay, but it happens. How's it going, Eric? I'm glad you can hear my voice. I'm glad somebody's decided to show up. I know this was impromptu. I didn't advertise it or anything like that, but I thought we'd have a look through the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Monstrous Manual for today. All right, so we're going to open it up in a second. On the back, the various monsters you would sort of expect, and a little bit of description. There's a lot of monsters. There's 600 monsters. There's 400 monsters in the Dungeons & Dragons 5e book, and yet there's 600 in this thing. It is a big book. It's very, very thick, which is part of the reason why I like it, but also another element to this particular book, make sure I get it straight, is it has a whole lot of information that a lot of the other newer monster manuals don't have, which is why I've gone and purchased it. So let's crack on. Hopefully I've got it on the screen. If my sound is bad or the video is bad, you let me know. So obviously, like all books, they try to advertise their products. This time they've put it in the front of the book rather than the back. I thought that was entertaining. And there's our front cover. And like all monster manuals, they have explained how to use the book, how it all works. I'm not going to go into that because that's really not my focus for today. If anything, it's really just to flip through this and sort of talk as we go. Lots of different creatures, and as it happens, we've got the Aarakocra in the very front, just like the monster manual for Dungeons & Dragons 5e. So one of the things, you have all the stat blocks. Now, if you'll notice, the stat block for this particular monster manual is pretty small, and I'm not even going to go into Thaco. I'm not even going to try to explain that. It's not really worth it. But the stats are very simple. It's very basic. You get a decent sized picture usually. Sometimes I wouldn't say that. I feel like that's a little bit on the small side, but that's all right. I'm gonna live with that. What is really helpful is all the text, because the text isn't just a description of the creature, which we already got by looking at the image in the first place. One of the things I noticed is it actually tells you a little bit about those creatures and monsters, how to use them in combat. There's usually about 3 paragraphs of information on how to run your monster. Now, none of this is going to be useless to you, and it's probably what I'm going to use to base any future videos I do on monster tactics, because they actually have a section on how to run them in terms of a combat, which is hugely useful to anybody who's never had to run the game before, dungeon mastering for the very first time. There are a few sections that are sort of only one paragraph, but it's not bad. Then you get habitat. So I'm going to move myself forward here a little bit. There's a section on habitat. Most of them have an explanation about where they live, what sort of society they have, really helpful information. Ecology. Ecology, surprisingly, it's actually important to know how they operate in the ecosystem. Why would we need to know anything about a monster's ecosystem? What a ridiculous thought. The players are going to like kill these things really fast, take the XP, take the treasure. I don't know where you're going to fit your treasure on your creature, but hey, it's got to have pockets. It must have swallowed it. It's sitting in the stomach there somewhere. But no, there's actually ecology information. This is often, I suspect, a lot of the information that AJ Pickett pulls for his own videos that he does. Hugely popular, and I can totally understand why. I watch them all the time. The other thing I noticed is that there's usually a section somewhere along the lines near the front, and it's not always completely consistent, but it sort of explains sort of how these things operate in their world. So the doppelganger, for example, here. The doppelganger is a master of mimicry. Well, we already knew this. Bipedal. This is actually a pretty bad example of the kind of information you get in this book. In fact, it's probably one of the worst ones I've seen. This is what reminds me of the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual number 3 for 4th edition. Pretty sparse. The Dracolich, huge amount of information on the Dracolich. And dragons. We get dragons galore. Huge number of dragons. White, red, blue, green, sapphire. If you wanted dragons, you're going to get plenty of them. I would say unique dragons, there's probably more unique dragons in here than you're going to find in a modern Dungeons & Dragons monster manual. It's true. I'm still flipping through and there's still more monsters that are dragon-like. Got the dragon turtle. And why did I decide to finally go off and do this? You know, I've been trying to figure out what I'm going to do with myself in terms of this channel, and I decided I actually missed not having this book on my shelf, and also it had a whole lot of really useful information in it, which I can now use for future videos. And I'm not going to say I'm going to do a huge number of videos on the topic, but I'm going to do enough to make it worthwhile you watching my channel from time to time. I don't really enjoy the rules side of the game. I know that sounds strange because my whole channel is based off this. So aquatic elves. I don't really need to know quite as much information as this on aquatic elves, but surprisingly there's a huge amount of information just on aquatic elves. Who would have guessed? So if you really wanted to know, there it is. Now, the new book, Mordekainen's Tome of Foes, not Tomb, but Tome of Foes, has got quite a bit of information designated to the key races, and obviously deals with demons and devils as well. And I will actually do a video on the topic. I know I have been hiding, okay, so I haven't done a lot of information on it. But there's a huge number of really cool monsters in here, and plenty of information to use. Genies. I don't like genies in my game. I don't know what it is. Genies always sort of, they're a bit hard for a player to deal with. Something that can actually change the very fabric and nature of the world. So sticking them in there is kind of tough. It's like deciding, well, I'm going to have my main villain be Thanos. And Thanos has the Infinity Gauntlet, so what can they possibly achieve or stop me doing? Cyclops. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the Cyclops, but it's never really used in a way that represents anything else other than a big bag of hit points that you dispose of. So one of the things I really like about the Cyclops is Jason and the Argonauts and the story of Homer, where there's a Cyclops that basically lives in a cave and captures individuals so he can feed on them, and has a herd of sheep. This herd of sheep apparently is there to feed it. And Homer winds up having to try to escape by disguising himself as one of the sheep. Well, that's my understanding of the story anyway. Plenty of giants. Quite an unusual giant here, the reef giant. We haven't seen this in the modern version of Dungeons and Dragons. I haven't forgotten about you, Tommy. How's it going, man? The GIF. So the GIF, and what do you know? We've got the GIF, not the GIF, but the GIF. This is the rhino creature with that pistol that everybody was saying, that's such a weird creature and monster. Why would you have that in a Dungeons and Dragons adventure? Why would you even put it into a resource? Well, honestly, there it is. Now, if you were really upset about the lack of information on the GIF, there's a huge amount of information in this book. So you can actually go and check it out if you really want to have the GIF in your game and you wanted hippo creatures. Is it rhino? Did I say rhino or hippo creatures? You guys are going to correct me, I'm sure of it. Spelljammer, let's go for it, yeah. I like the idea of travelling through the astral plane. Get Yankee. Moving on, gnolls, plenty of information on there. Gnomes, you know, I'm actually quite surprised they decided to put halflings and gnomes into the new book, Mordekainen's Tome of Foes. I'm actually quite surprised. I'm not sure why that is, but it's a nice upbeat feel to it. I certainly agree with that. Golems. So what sort of golems have we got here? We've got, this is where you used to have greater golems and lesser golems. And they're detailed in here. So you didn't necessarily have a golem of a particular nature, and that was it. You could have really powerful golems or fairly weak golems. I don't think any golem is particularly weak if you ask me. Okay, so we've got here the bone, the doll. We've got a gargoyle. We've got a glass golem. I can't even imagine dealing with a glass golem. It's going to wind up with shards of glass spilling all over the player's characters, right? The scarecrow golem, although I think it's been replaced by just a plain old scarecrow now. And the necrophilidus. Well, it's the skeleton heady thingy snaky whatty things. The stone variants. The gorgon. So, you know, I know a lot of people are thinking, why would you even go and purchase this book again? It's an old publication. But honestly, I actually think there's quite a lot of information that can be used in your game from here. And which is why I'm going to stop throwing my books away or trying to sell them, because that was like, I can't believe how stupid I was. Whole bunch of information on green hags and sea hags, although I think the Dungeons and Dragons 5e book does a pretty good job of covering hags, personally. Here we start and get pretty wacky. What's that? The Hattori, the harpy. The harpy, we know about the harpy. The Hattori, what the heck is that? A haunt. I think AJ's actually covered that particular creature not so long ago anyway, so if anybody was interested. The hippocampus. You know, my background is psychology, and when I think of the hippocampus, I'm actually thinking of a part of the brain. And when I saw this, the hippocampus, I couldn't help but laugh. It was quite entertaining. I don't think it's a sort of monster you would have them fight, but maybe ride if they need some help getting from point A to point B. And honestly, what is this? Is this just a skeleton in robes? A Heracura. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that thing. Too hard for me. You know me. I can't pronounce dilly squat. Homunculus, Hooked Horror. The Hooked Horror looks so different now. This is what it originally looked like, and now we get let's get real. The older artwork, some of it was actually really bad, but some of it's actually pretty cool. I mean, a lot of this is actually not bad considering. And am I just about halfway through? They even include horses. I don't know why. A huge number of different human variants. I suppose if you want to fight them, you can. The Hydra. I feel a little bit sparse on the Hydra. There's not an awful lot of information. I've been really meaning to do a tactics video for Hydra, so I will get round to doing that. Don't worry, it will come eventually. Everything eventually comes. It just takes time. The Internet Devourer, Insect Swarms, a bit pretty familiar. I think this is what we now call the Cloaker. And the I can't pronounce that, can you? Get a load of this. This is the Invisible Stalker. Their idea of an image for the Invisible Stalker is a blank square. There's literally nothing there. It is invisible. You can't see it. Ha! Okay. The Kenku's changed a lot. The Kenku looked a lot more, I guess, a lot more angry. Like it's got a lot more issues. Potentially hasn't gone to their therapist enough. Whereas now they look more cute and cuddly rather than scary. Jackalware. These are tough things. I always found those to be hugely difficult for any party. The Kyrene, I don't even know what that's supposed to be. So we start getting pretty wacky in terms of monsters. Pretty standard stuff. Katoa and Kobolds. A leech. The worst place to have a leech is where? I know, as a guy, I know where I do not want the leech. And what is this? A lamisui? Good lord. I think what they used to do is just take animals and just tack little bits and pieces here and there just to make it more interesting. Leprechaun. I've got a friend recently who's insisted that everything we come across is a leprechaun and has a pile of treasure, so we cannot kill them, and we have to find their pot of gold. So yes, lots of different weird creatures in here. Alright, Tommy. What have you got here? I brought and I am playing Gloomhaven. Oh, okay. Good game. I played it in a 5th edition game on Monday nights at my house, and I made a room where up to 10 players can play. We are running in a Tarmat module. 10 players, man. The last time I remember having 10 players in my campaign was a long time ago, and that's hard work. You be gentle on yourself. The lycanthrope. So werebears, wereboars, and of course we get the werefox. The werefox. This is the foxy lady. Ha! No, I'm only kidding. Were-rats, and of course there'll be a werewolf in here. Were-ravens, were-tigers, the traditional werewolf, mammals, even covered basic beasts, which now in the modern book is in the back, but I still think it's not a bad way to go. The only problem is you don't get an awful lot of information if you squeeze it in there. There's not an awful lot of information in the modern book anyway. Mammals, covers mammals, different types of mammals, although I think you're better off just jumping on the internet and doing a bit of research yourself. The mammal herd. Okay, the man scorpion. Has anybody ever heard of the man scorpion? I know that the man scorpion is from the Scorpion King. We've got a Scorpion King. What was that? The Rock played that particular monster. I think he did a fairly good job since he was like CGI. So, you know, he worked it as best he could. Manticore, Medusa. Medusas don't feel particularly scary nowadays. Here's the male version. And a mermaid. Mind flayers, mimics. I have some old miniatures that look like barrels, a treasure chest, and a bed that look like mimics. And that's really cool. What I like is that they have included some variations. A mimic can essentially be anything you want, right? And missed the Crimson Death. Let's not forget the Minotaur. The Crimson Death. Now, this is not something you will find in a modern Dungeons & Dragons monster manual, although I suppose the Vampiric Mist from the new book that's just been released, I suppose that would cover the basis for that. And thanks, Tommy. I'm glad you love my streams. I am trying really hard to be... Oh, there we go. There's the Vampiric Mist. It's included as well, which means it is different from the Mist, the Crimson Death. It isn't the same creature, just renamed. Mold. This is where it's like taking ooze to another level when you start saying the mold that you find can kill you. And I live in New Zealand where we have what's called black mold. Grows everywhere. Horrible stuff. Causes all sorts of health issues. So I can totally understand this. So we get details on brown mold, russet, is it russet mold? Don't know what russet mold is supposed to be, and yellow mold. All of which are very dangerous, and you have to be careful what you do when you get near it. Vigipygmies, the Mongolmen. Now, for those of you who like freaks and mixed sort of races and creatures, the Curse of Strahd has mongrel men, and they're really cool. It's a really sad story. I'm not going to go into any details because that would be spoilers, and I know I need to actually cover the Curse of Strahd at some point, since I like the book, I like the adventure, and I haven't actually talked about it that much, not specifically to the book, that is. What's that? A Morkith. What the heck is that? A Morkith. It's like a fish creature with tentacles and weird looking hooky bits. A mud dweller, looks a bit like a reduced size T-Rex with a fin on top. Mudmen. I don't know if anybody remembers Scooby-Doo. If you ever watched Scooby-Doo, mudmen were quite a common feature. Anything that sort of dripped bits and pieces off it and had no sort of major features, just arms and legs and maybe an eye sockets and mouths, the mud creature. We still have the mummy, and we get the greater mummy, so a couple of variations on that. I don't like fungus men. Do you know why I don't like fungus men? It's not because it's not a good monster. The problem is, there's plenty of information here. There's huge amounts. There's like 2 pages of bits and pieces on it that will be useful to you. They're so slow. So I feel like my players, unless they sneak up on them, they're just going to shoot them at range, which tends to wind up happening. The Naga, made a Naga out of, tin foil and paper clips and various other bits and pieces not so long ago, a bit of putty. The giant octopus, the nymph, the ogres. It's actually, well, there's almost 1, 2, 3, that's 4 pages on ogres and half ogres. Not too bad, actually. Here we go, we're into oozes. I always liked Jello, and we get the slimy Jello ooze. Now this one is the stun jelly, the mustard jelly. This is the one you want to actually, this is the one you put on your meat products to make it taste better, including an olive slime creature. So if you like olives, maybe you're Italian and you like your olives, a bit of olive oil, you can have, find one yourself these, squeeze it really good, and you've got yourself a nice supply of olive oil and some olives to eat. Olive slime, I'm not sure that sounds very tasty to me, unfortunately. And then we get a whole bunch more. So what do we got here? We got the gelatinous cube, the orc jelly, the grey oozes covered. We've got a crystal ooze. I didn't even realise there was a crystal ooze. Green ooze. I don't think there's anything here on the black pudding though. I don't know why. That's all look kind of odd. The slithering tracker, another ooze-like creature. Not a black pudding though. Orcs. Otyog. Now, Otyog, for those of you who don't know, this is the creature that is basically the big, huge garbage thing. It has 2 sort of tentacle things for grabbing on, and one of those, the third tentacle thing is not actually for grabbing. It's got eyeballs on it, so I can stick it up out of the garbage, have a look around, see what's roaming around above it, and then it can come up and eat it with its great huge jaws. It doesn't look like anything normal whatsoever. Owlbears have changed. The design on them has changed so much over the years. And a Pegasus. I don't know how many of you have watched Clash the Titans. I always remember the Pegasus from the original Clash the Titans. Not talking about the new one. I'm talking about the one that had, is it Hamill? Oh, I can't remember his name. It was all stop motion anyway. For the life of me, I cannot remember. Okay. Phoenix. Quite a lot of information is covered on the Phoenix. So if you were really upset with how the new book, Mordekainen's Tome of Foes, was dealing with the Phoenix, this gives you quite a lot of information, and it has casting abilities. It actually casts spells. You can cast Blink, Blur, Continual Light, Dancing Lights, Find Traps, what's that? Fire Charm. I don't even know what fire charm is. Is this where you can charm your fire so it doesn't burn you? I'm not sure. Okay, plants, dangerous plants. I'm not a fan of plants. We'll get to them. The piercer, which is just an overlarge roper, really. Well, not an overlarge. It's how the roper starts, right? Starts off as a piercer, drops on the ground. Not a very efficient way to actually kill anything. And certainly I don't know how we even wind up with enough ropers around to make life difficult in the cave, simply because how many of those piercers has fallen, missed their target, or didn't kill their victim on the first fall. I don't know. Because they don't move very fast. It's not like they can get away. If you didn't kill them the first time round, you're toast. Very inefficient. Very inefficient. Okay, plants. We have the choking creeper, the man trap, the reach plant, the snapping saw, the thorn slinger, throws thorns, probably does, yep. The tri-flower frond, kind of reminds me of Day of the Triffids. The yellow musk creeper and the yellow musk zombie. Is there a zombie? A plant zombie, possibly. We're not finished though, because there's more plants. The hangman tree. Okay, so you've got a tree that tries to hang people. Sounds quite fun, actually. The kelpie, I've used the kelpie from the Isle of Dread, or Island of Dread, for those of you who would prefer to call it that. The oblivix, gosh, that sounds very similar to a creature that recently has been created. The quick wood, the shambling mound, which most of you will know about, the strangling weed, unfortunately not a lot of pictures in this section, the sundew giant, and the thorny. Aha! Intelligent plants. Apparently, so for those of you who are a little bit worried there wasn't enough information on each of these, there looks to be like anywhere from 2 to 4 or 5 paragraphs on each of the plant and intelligent plant creatures. Poltergeists, and there we go, there's the deadly pudding, the black pudding. For those of you who are worried that it has been excluded, it has not. Okay, Rakasha, rats. You know, not fun. I have a rat miniature, and it's the size of a dragon. And I'm going to put it on the table one day when the players make that snide remark about, oh, well, we're level 1 and all we do is kill rats. And I'll stick this thing on the table and they'll have another thing to say about it because it's like, I don't know, colossal size. That ought to scare them. Ramorhez, the insect creature, revenant, rock, picking up an elephant there. Plenty of information on that. Rust monsters, ropers, there we go, there it is. And then we get into sea life. That's like 2 pages on surgeon. Is it surgeon? Surgeon? Surgeon. No, they're not the sort of surgeons that that operate on your intestines or your inner workings, so forget about that one. The scorpion. I really feel like this is quite cool because you get a large scorpion, a huge scorpion, and a giant scorpion. So various sized scorpions that you could include into your game. And I've actually got 2 different sized scorpion miniatures, but it just doesn't quite fall in line with the modern book. Just for those who wanted to know. I'm sure you can find different types. Thank you there, Ralph. Hojan. Sea lion. I've actually got a miniature that looks like this. Whether you believe it or not, honestly I do. I think it might be more tigerish in the front rather than lionish, but it's pretty close to this. Selkie just looks a bit like almost a humanoid, like otter. Yeah, okay, that's weird. Shadow, nice and simple. Keep it simple, right? A shooty. This kind of looks like a mix of a king who has been transformed into a flying horse. Is that punishment or a leg up? I don't know. Skeletons, siren, skeleton warriors, giant skeleton, and slard. Oh, tadpole creatures, really bad. You do not want them laying anything inside you. And the giant slug. I actually have some giant slugs around my house. I try not to let them in. Snakes, spectre, winged snakes, the Sphinx. Has anybody run a Sphinx adventure where they actually included the original riddle that the Sphinx is supposed to ask? There's apparently an original riddle, and I didn't know what it was. And when I ran this adventure, one of my players actually knew exactly what the answer to the riddle was, and they knew the riddle too. So you know what I did? I let him go with it. I let him play the Sphinx because he was going to do a better job than I would of playing it. So hence, that whole encounter was a lot better, not because of me, but because of the knowledge my players had. Okay, what's this here? I can see there's a whole bunch of comments coming through here. I'm just going to keep moving along as quickly as I can. I'll get back to you guys, don't worry. Spiders. We get every type of spider under the sun, including a gargantuan spider, and a whole bunch of information on them as well. Sprites. Got to be careful of sprites and pixies. Pixies, man. Pixies are dangerous. For those of you who think that they are a piece of cake, pixies are lethal. Just because of what they can do. Okay, that polymorph's a big deal. The Sturge, your giant insect creatures. Tabaxi, here we go. It's going right back. So it's not a new development. Tabaxi have been around a while. The Swanmay. I don't even know what a Swanmay is. It just looks like a feathered girl, really, as far as I can tell. Bird maiden. Takeo. What is that supposed to be? That is just a, it's just an octopus that's holding weapons. Very original. Okay. Tanari. There we go. We know what this is. This is the big one. And Thought Eater. Something that eats your thoughts. I think a lot of people actually don't have too many thoughts to worry about. It's alright, you don't need to worry about it. It's not real, it can't hurt you. The Thigh Cream. Artwork's not bad, really. Honestly, it's pretty good considering this is an old book. This is an old publication. The Trent, which I think the modern one looks better than this. This just looks like a tree with no arms, and it's got sort of some eyes just over here and a mouth. That's it. Triton. I had a player who was playing a Triton just recently and had a great time with that. It's just a shame I was unable to sort of continue with the campaign. And then we're going to scroll on through a whole bunch of trolls, quite a bit of information on trolls, because as we know, there's different types. We've got the giant two-headed troll. We have the freshwater troll, who is called the scrag. The saltwater troll, which is just a marine scrag. The desert troll. The spectral troll, or troll wraith. Giant trolls. Well, I thought trolls were already giants to begin with, so why do they need to be bigger? The ice troll. Now, there are ice trolls in the Rise of Tiamat. So if you want to have an ice troll in your game, there are ice trolls in the Rise of Tiamat. Check them out. And then this is the spirit troll. Umber hulks, unicorns. Not really a something you want to battle, but certainly really useful if you can befriend it. Vampires. And we cover female and male vampires. What is this? This is the Weemic. The Weemic. It's sort of like a cross between a centaur and a very hairy individual who has never gone to the barber ever, with black hair, who wields shields and primitive weapons. Whales. Lots of different whales. I think the whales are going to be far more interesting if you make them fly. Personally, it's a fantasy adventure. Make them fly. So it actually covers how they would operate in combat, their society and habitat, the ecology, and it covers the giant whale, the leviathan, and killer whales, orca, And what's this? The Narwhal? Narwhal. What's a narwhal? I've got no idea. Common in cold subarctic waters. It is called the unicorn of the sea. Ah, I see what they're basing it off. Oh, okay. Alright. Great. And the Will-O-the-Wisp. So, for those of you who were curious, because I've done a few videos on Will-O-the-Wisp, at least a tactics video recently, there are combat tactics here on how they operate, a bit of information, and I'm looking through here and trying to find if it tells you what sort of type of thing it is. It's a malevolent entity that makes its home in the swamps, bogs, and moors. It subsides to lure unsuspecting creatures to their death. Well, we already knew that. But if you were unhappy with the way they have treated the Will-O-the-Wisp and you want to go back to what it used to be, there's plenty of information in there, and you can check it out for yourself. The werewolf again. We already had lycanthropes, but I will. Worms. This will be your purple worm, your giant bloodworm, your rot grub. Ugh, those are bad news. And also your bookworm. So this is, I guess, going to really upset those mages who did not make sure to spray their spell book with anti-bookworm retardant. Alright, wraiths. The Xenon, Raven, Yeti, Yanti, la da 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 da. So I'm actually going to have quite a lot of fun with this, I can see right now. I'm glad I grabbed it. Even if it did mean I had to pay $20 for a book that actually I already owned originally. And it's got, you know, this is what's weird about the books that we get nowadays. This has got an appendices, or appendix, and goes into some basic sort of summoning tables. And then we do get, you know, how to summon creatures, so forth. But there's an index, a legitimate alphabetical index of all things to put in a monster manual, an appendix. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? I know that in modern day now it looks more like the contents page in the front, but there's something to be said for the good old index. Okay, alright, so I'm just going to have a quick chat with you guys since it's been a little while, and just have a look through the comments. Maybe I will find something here as I scroll on through. Pardon me as I'm moving my chair into position, because I've tried to set up my camera a little bit different today, just so that I didn't wind up falling over myself or not being able to reach far enough. I've got my camera pointing straight down, which surprisingly was really hard to get to do. Okay, so Tommy, what do we got here? Not an awful lot here. How's it going, Ralph, anyway? Spelljammer creatures, plenty of them, yes. What have we got? Any comments that I need to pay attention to? Eric, how's it going, Eric? The Lam Masu looks ancient Middle Eastern. Yes, it does a little bit, doesn't it? Asaran. Asaran? I'm not even sure what that is. You know, I spent a lot of time watching AJ Pickett's videos. I learned an awful lot about monsters from him. It's been very, very helpful. I'm so surprised how good the earlier edition books look. Very nice. Yeah, look, there's some discoloration on the book itself because this is quite an old book. You can still buy these things. Would you believe it? If you don't mind dealing with the fact that the stat block isn't going to be any use to you unless you're playing second edition. But it's actually pretty good, and it's got a lot of information. This is a huge book with a lot of actually pretty relevant information in it too. What do you got here? Ralph, what do you got here? They are pretty different. The Shidu. It's actually based on the Assyrian statues. Is it? Okay. Didn't know that. Thank you for that. Now I do. I won't say that word. Now I'll get into trouble if I say that word. I think we've pretty much... Oh, have I caught up? Finally, I've caught up. Didn't take long. Hey guys, look, hopefully you enjoyed this. I don't know that it's necessarily great viewing if you ask me. I'm honestly going to make this this is actually me saying this is worth picking up. Even if it is an old monster manual, it's really, yeah, it is exactly, you're quite right, Ralph. It's the complete antithesis of a 4E monster manual. It's weird, eh? It's like everybody had gone completely the other way, and it was all about stat blocks and nothing else. And this has got to have so much information about what you could build an adventure around. And in the future, when I do finally get my head around it, I'm starting to feel a little bit better about doing videos now and live streaming. So you probably will start to see me doing it. Maybe it's some really wacky times, and I do apologise for that. But on my days off, I'll try to be a bit more kinder about the timing for it. For those of you who don't want to be getting up at 5 in the morning, and you shouldn't, okay? I will replay them. It will happen. It's not an issue. I can make that happen. YouTube actually wants me to do that, so that's fine. So look, you can pick this up on Amazon, and I think it's about 26 American. It's not bad. I paid $20 New Zealand, and obviously American money is worth more than New Zealand money, but you could pick it up if you really wanted to. Otherwise, don't worry about it, because I'm going to use a lot of this information in my videos, and you will get an opportunity to hear about this stuff. And if you don't get it from me, go and check out AJ Pickett, because he has a whole lot of information on monsters that you can go and listen to, learn about. And that's pretty much it. So look, hey, if you like the video, then share and like the video. And if you like this sort of content, I do it from time to time. I will eventually be a bit more regular, but subscribe to the channel, hit the bell button if you want to, and I will I'll get well, you'll get notifications. I won't get notifications. You should get notified when I'm live and when I publish a new video. And that's going to happen. Trust me, I'm working through my old footage and I'm just getting my head around things. And hopefully this is the beginning of me getting my shite together. For those of you who've been waiting for me to finally get my head around everything. And the other thing is, there's probably no point in putting a whole lot of comments down below. But tell me, do you have this book? I would like to know, do you still find it useful? And if you haven't got this book, would you pick it up if you thought you could get something out of it? I think honestly AJ is a great resource for anything, so check him out. If you want to support my channel, you just did, putting up with this live stream or rewatching this video. I don't do Patreon, but down in the description there are affiliate links like every channel out there just about. Certainly. Oh, you got 2 copies, Ralph. Oh my gosh, 2 copies, blimey. There's the cloaker, which means that other creature that I thought was the cloaker is the something else. I don't even know what that is. It looks so similar. Anyway, you guys have a great day. I think I've pretty much said everything I have to. Certainly it won't take you long to work your way through this. And yeah, you guys have a good day. And until next time, keep rolling those 20s. 1998. Oh, okay, revised edition. I picked it up a couple of years ago. Cool. All right, guys, I'll catch up with you some other time.